Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. We're starting tonight with the latest on the indictment of former President Donald Trump. He is now the first former president in American history to face criminal charges. Madeline Rivera has more from New York.
This extraordinary story of the first former president to be indicted will likely reach a peak next week, when Donald Trump is expected to be treated like anyone else charged with a crime. Trump Force One sitting on a Florida tarmac for now, but expected to fly the former president to New York next week to surrender. Hours after word of Donald Trump's indictment emerged, supporters gathered outside his Mar-a-Lago estate. On Thursday, he became the first former president in U.S. history to face criminal charges. While the exact charges remain under seal, the investigation centered around hush money payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. The announcement coming as a surprise to Trump's attorneys, who say he is ready to fight.
Everything they've done here is to gain attention. We now heard 34 counts. I guarantee you it's going to be 34 counts when we find out next week.
In a statement, Mr. Trump maintained his innocence, calling the case, quote, political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. When he arrives in New York for his arraignment, the Secret Service will escort him as he's fingerprinted and photographed for a mugshot. He will then appear before a judge and is expected to plead not guilty before being released on his own recognizance. Manhattan criminal cases typically take more than a year to go to trial.
It could be that every transaction is a separate count. It's also possible that they are going to allege other crimes like bank fraud or tax fraud.
NYPD officers are being ordered to be dressed in full uniform and ready to deploy as soon as they're called. In New York, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Horseheads police have arrested the woman responsible for calling in a bomb threat to a local daycare center yesterday afternoon. According to police, 26-year-old Kendra Nichols of Elmira was arrested for the threat made against Amy's Sunshine Center. Police say the threat may have been credible, which led to an evacuation and a search of the daycare facility. No explosives were found in the center. Nichols was a former employee of the center who was recently terminated. After 4 decades of work, a Cornell grape breeder has cracked the code to a new breed of grape that has a unique characteristic. Big Fox's Josh Fehlberg tells us how the Aravel grape may change the future of the Finger Lakes wine industry.
Cornell professor Bruce Reich is the creator and breeder of the Aravel grape.
Aravel started out long ago. It was from a cross of Cayuga White by White Riesling, a cross I made in 1981.
The Aravel, or NY81 grape, was an experimental breed that didn't show a lot of promise.
So we were beginning to lose interest, but we had gotten some vines out to different growers to get their opinions. And they came back and said, what we noticed is that it's much more rot resistant than White Riesling.
Riesling grapes experience a lot of fruit rot during the harvest season, which requires growers to pick them before they are fully ripened.
But with Aravel, we had wine quality that was similar to Riesling, and yet you could let it fully ripen on the vine before you pick it.
Paul Brock, owner of Silver Threads Vineyard, is a former student of Professor Reich's at Cornell. Silver Threads is one of the few vineyards in the area that is growing Aravel.
So as we look towards the future of grape growing in the Finger Lakes especially, kind of look towards the past too, where the locally adapted hybrid varieties are easier to farm because we don't have to manage them as much in the vineyard to get really high quality wine grapes to make wine out of.
Successfully bred hybrids like Aravel helps the grape industry continue to grow.
And just any extreme that you can think of is a possibility going forward, as we all know, and having varieties that just are a little bit more robust is going to be key to making sure that our grape industry always has something to grow.
You can try Aravel grape wine in Silver Threads Good Earth White. As for Professor Reich, his work is just getting started.
It has been a very long time in coming. Sometimes it takes us 18 years from start to finish to develop a new variety. This one's been a 42-year process. So it is exciting. It feels great to get out the door, but I do not feel like my work is done because We have so many exciting things coming along that are yet to be named and released.
Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News.
Massey's Gardens and Landscaping is hosting their annual Spring Fling event tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Spring Fling will host over 100 vendors from all across the Twin Tiers. There will be something for everyone, as the vendors include artists, distilleries, masseuses, face painting, food trucks, and more. Spring Fling is free to the public, and the event will be inside, so weather is not a factor. The World Health Organization and the CDC are at odds over who exactly should be getting COVID-19 shots and boosters at this point in the pandemic. Lucas Tomlinson has more.
COVID vaccines are still a requirement in many school districts across the country, but new guidelines could change that. The World Health Organization updating its COVID vaccine recommendations, saying healthy kids and teenagers without pre-existing conditions are not a priority for the COVID vaccine. The revisions reflect a new focus on prioritizing vaccines for those at highest risk, as the outbreak moves from the pandemic to the endemic stage.
We need to do a reset right now and learn how to live with this virus for probably to the end of time. It's going to be with us.
The WHO also pointing to higher immunity levels around the world due to vaccines and prior infection, two metrics the White House cited recently as it moves forward with a plan to end the COVID national emergency next month.
We are in a different place and time than we were in January. We've been winding down authorities over the last 2 weeks, over the last 2 months.
But the CDC is standing firm on its own guidelines, recommending everyone aged 6 months and older stay up to date with vaccines and boosters. CDC officials tell Fox News the new WHO guidelines are meant to provide flexibility to individual countries. And some of those countries, including India and China, are still dealing with high rates of infection.
People should follow COVID-appropriate behavior. And if they have not got themselves vaccinated, get themselves vaccinated.
The CDC also claims its independent analysis of children receiving the COVID vaccine found that the benefits still outweigh the risks. In Washington, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
Your complete weekend forecast is still ahead. Plus, the price of used cars, especially minivans, SUVs, and trucks, are going up. What you need to know before hitting the lot. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
A dreary pattern is taking us into April, but it will come with some higher precautions as we step into that Saturday forecast. Now, note that even through the overnight, we'll continue to talk about some showery weather. Even a few moderate downpours that may include a few rumbles of thunder will greet us into that first day of April. Now, we are looking at Saturday to be our active day. What will be included within the day, starting the day off here with that rumble of thunder? We will get a break in the cloud cover. That may even bring some sunshine, but it's going to be a blustery sunshine. We're going to see non-severe thunderstorm wind gusts in place, meaning that just a general wind underneath that sunshine will be blustery, creating some white knuckling there driving, or noting that we may have some blowing objects if they aren't secured. Now, you'll want to make sure to secure any of those loose objects, because then as we head into the evening, a wind threat is going to be amplified with thunderstorms, as there is a risk to pouring in some stronger storms as we head into the evening hours, especially with that break in the cloud cover bringing some sunshine. That can bring a bit of unstable air to the atmosphere and allow for storms to build along that. But that is also going to be associated with a cold front that is going to then push in some brisk conditions into our second day of April, where there will be at least some sunshine around. So first, pushing into the wind threat that is going to come as we break into those rain showers. Again, we'll have a rumble of thunder into the morning, then running from about 9 a.m. into the early afternoon, we'll get a break from those rain showers, but the wind winds out of the southwest will be gusty upwards of about 40 to 50 miles per hour. But that's going to be that southwesterly wind, and under that sunshine, that's going to amplify those temperatures, and it's creating this atmosphere that is even lying much of the area underneath this slight risk. The severe weather season has been punching its way back across the states. There has been that very severe weather setup, a very rare historic setup across the Central Plains, and that system is what's bringing this slight risk. Now, we have different parameters that we're watching, with our main risk being that wind threat. So rolling through forecasts here, through the overnight, some showery weather and a few rumbles of thunder here to take us into early Saturday morning. Here's your break, that sunshine, windy weather creating unstable conditions, and then here's your line of storms that could bring some stronger wind gusts, as well as maybe sometimes some hail potential, as well as then noting that that's going to be that cold front that brings in cooler air but quieter skies for Sunday. So looking as we head into our Saturday with that sunshine and that field of that southerly wind, we bump temperatures nearly 20 degrees above average. You're going to nearly feel that humidity in the air fueling the storm. Then we'll have that frontal system, and we drop from the 70s to the 40s. We drop 10 degrees below average into our Sunday. Now, we do have some sunshine that will be around. Might even see that system end off with a little bit of wintry mix for some of our higher elevations. That will melt on down. But as we head into next week, note that we track still more rounds of active weather.